Okay, welcome to Doushin Talk. My name is Gadu. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Doushin Talk is a part of a Heart of Giving Day. So, the purpose of Doushin Talk is to encourage people to keep going and keep opening their heart or kokoro, as we say, and cultivating the heart of giving. And today's topic is going beyond. So, when we are, I usually talk about it in writing and in a talk too. Healing is not just about your symptom going away. Healing is your lifelong journey, and it's not just about symptom going away. It's also about your self-realization and cultivating your spirituality too. So you continue to heal, you know, and it's not always easy to keep going, So then how we can keep going, in a moment of, sometimes we get disappointed or sometimes we feel frustrated, And why it's going beyond is in order to keep going, you always have to, think about going beyond where you are. If you're just shooting for status quo, it doesn't go that fast, So I'm going to talk about, like how usually, because I've been teaching for a long time and I've seen so many different type of students, Some people are very good at keep going and some people aren't. And, this is kind of experience that I had. So especially, kind of a healing type of thing and this type of spiritual work. In the beginning, everybody have a kind of a capacity. Some people have a bigger capacity as they are born, some people have a smaller capacity. And when you start doing like Qigong movement or healing and stuff like that, this ball get filled with energy. And when they get filled with energy, you feel this sensation of a kind of a fullness. And that's when people, in the beginning, people feel like, oh my gosh, energy is moving. It's like, what is this? It's very easily, like you just start it right away and you start feeling that's like, oh my gosh, something's moving, something is different, and they get excited. But then as you continue to practice, as you continue to feel this capacity, the capacity itself will start growing. So it's like as you feel the ball starts growing. So what happens is, after a while, you feel like, oh, I'm doing the same amount of practice, but nothing happening. I'm not feeling the same type of sensation, same type of movement inside. And that's usually people drop off right there. And people, if you can go past that, they can keep going. But then that's the beginning part, like when oftentimes people start doing this kind of a practice and drop off after a few months. It's just like that. They don't realize their capacity is grown. So in order to fill it, you have to keep going a little bit more. You can't stay in the same level. And then it will continue to grow, continue to fill. And then you just, once that filled, it can grow even more and bigger like that, So that's how those sometimes you feel like people who are advanced in their practice, they have more energy to give. It's just like that. It's just you're filled with, you have a much bigger capacity, And same for your heart too. In the beginning, you may have a very little capacity for your heart, And oftentimes when your heart is filled, you have a kind of a sensation. Sometimes like even though you're not sad, the tears comes out. When you're practicing, meditation or you hear talk and sometimes just tear comes out. That's when your heart is full. But same thing, when your heart is filled, if you continue to fill it, it will grow. So in order to keep filling your heart, you have to cultivate more unconditional love, you know, and that's also part of your growth. But a lot of times people don't know that, you know. So then people start feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough, you know. When you have to actually keep going, they stop. So I always talk about, consistent practice, daily practice is very important, because daily practice is like putting a drop of water into it. So even though, it's a drop of water, you may or may not feel it as much, And sometimes people think like, oh, I'm doing this every day, but they just feel like nothing is happening. But it is happening. You might not notice it, And once in a while you feel this subtle, like different kind of a movement or a deeper understanding. And that will fill, even more. Well, you go to a retreat or, higher level class or something like that, and you may experience something big movement, because when there's more people around, bigger energy will move too. So that's part of a reason those retreats are very powerful, because your energy is kind of gathered with other people's energy and then bring the vibration higher. So you continue to feel it. And then sometimes you feel this breakthrough, or sometimes you feel this, something, it's just filled, and then you just, oh, something else is happening. Vibration or something changes. And that feeling is important, because that feeling will keep you going. The new discovery, even though you might be doing the same thing over and over again, every day, all of a sudden something connects in your mind, like, oh, I finally understand, what I'm doing every day. I'm just following it every day, but then, oh, no, I just understood, like, whatever it is that through my experience. So that's kind of why, I talk about the daily practice. And it's also going deeper in your practice every day. It's very important. So that's why I start offering, kind of a higher level classes daily, so people can come and experience it, without waiting for once a year retreat and stuff like that. They can come every day and actually go deeper. So in order to keep going, going deeper, going beyond where you're at, is a necessity, because otherwise you get bored. Then in order to do that, you also have to be very mindful. You need to be aware of like where you're at, where you feel, what you feel. And you need to be aware of subtle changes inside. And in order to do that, you also have to let go of this, you have to be very patient about it, and also you have to let go of sort of delusion about grandeur. We all have that, right? Sometimes a lot of times people looking for, like shortcut. If you do this, then everything, like I'm going to heal completely. I'm just looking for this switch. You just turn on the switch and everything is go, And sometimes that happens, and that's kind of give people false hope or like different kind of expectation. But for most of us, we have to approach it with really one step at a time. You cannot skip a step either. Like when I was teaching, Spring Forest Qigong classes, it's a tricky thing is when there's the levels, when there's the numbers, it's easy to stimulate people's ego, And sometimes the people come and like, oh, I have learned something like this before, so I'm going to start with level 3. And people come and like have no idea what I'm talking about. because this person thought they can just skip the step and start with something, where they are now ready for it, you know. So that's why you have to always approach things especially when you're learning new things. You have to approach with the beginner's mind. I talked about that before. Always start with like, oh, I don't know anything, and I may know something, but then I don't know anything, and then I'm just gonna start learning everything from scratch. When you go with the attitude, you learn more. And another thing is when you are, in a retreat or a higher level class, because of that vibration, the collective vibration with other people, you may actually experience things that you don't usually experience, And sometimes give people ideas like, oh, my vibration is already higher. But then when you go back to your own practice, all of a sudden you can't experience the same thing anymore. And that's also, we might actually, like when you're doing this kind of a retreat, you might actually kind of step and really reaching out, and then like sometimes, you see like something beyond what I understanding, But to get there, that's not actually a stepping up yet. You just glimpsed just a little bit. So then you have to do a daily practice to actually build. But great thing is, that's possible. It's there. So you know where to go, And that's the beauty of it. And sometimes people have this idea when they gain knowledge, they actually have went into that level. The common thing is like people have taken, say, level 2 class, and then, oh, I have taken a level 2 class, so I'm a level 2 practitioner. People say stuff like that. I'm like, no, you took level 2 class, so now start practicing level 2 stuff to become a level 2 practitioner. Taking a class doesn't give you automatically that level, because people don't understand the knowledge, just knowledge. This is something that my teacher said, and that really, I feel it's important, When you start with knowledge, right? Because without knowledge, you don't know where to go. But when you start practicing with that knowledge, and then as you continue to practice, you start gaining wisdom. And this wisdom is different because knowledge is usually general, right? But the wisdom you gain is very specific to you. That's why it's wisdom. This is how I understand. All these general knowledge, break it down, and then actually coming into your body, and then this is what it is for me. And that's your wisdom. But that's not the end. As you continue to practice with your wisdom, eventually it will become your skill. So then that you can actually use this wisdom and knowledge for your needs. And that's the practice. So knowledge is just knowledge. It's just a basic level. And then you start gaining your own wisdom. And it's become a skill, then you can really use it. And then when you actually gain the skill, you may not really need the knowledge anymore, or knowledge itself is not that important anymore. So you can go beyond the knowledge. So that's kind of my practice, that's kind of how I evolved in a way. I started out with knowledge, learning different kind of a thing and gain all sorts of knowledge, and then as I practiced, and like this is what that mean, and like, my practice, what I teach right now is not just from the Qigong, it came from like a Buddhist practice that I've done before, or the movement practice I have done before, all these things that I have learned, as a knowledge, and with practice it's become a wisdom. And then like, oh, it's actually became my skill, you know. So that's why I can share it, you know. Because knowledge itself, a lot of times people share knowledge, but then it doesn't stick because there's no wisdom behind it, you know. Or if there's no skill of how to communicate the knowledge, it's just knowledge is just a knowledge. You know, it's same as just reading a book. It just comes from someone's, you know, from mouth. And we all have to start from there, you know. But then when you bring it down deeper and really it's becoming a skill, that you can teach the same knowledge from so many different directions, you know. If you actually read some of the Buddhist books, you know, if it's interesting how the Buddha have changed the way he explained things depending on the audience, you know. And there is actually a Buddhist word for it, you know. It's called hoben. It's called useful means, actually, you know, because there's a skill. So whatever the knowledge it is, that what they communicate can be actually come from so many different ways. You know, sometimes from like a folk tale way, sometimes come from a more of a strict teaching way. You know, so there's so many different ways that, you know, the Buddha talk about different kind of a thing, you know. And that's why it's kind of make it interesting. And sometimes it's like almost like a contradicting, you know, ideas. And that's why a lot of Buddhist philosopher and, you know, they've been going deep into the book and then, you know, can't really figure out what's going on. But because they're just reading a book and they're not really practicing, you know, then it's just become a knowledge. But when you understand, like everything can become clear, oh, okay, that's what Buddha's talking about. You know. And so when you continue to practice like that, you know, how to refine your practice is also letting go of your expectations, which is a very hard thing to do, especially when you're trying to heal yourself, you know. But when you get attached to expectation, because expectation is your attachment, you know, and it doesn't work as well. You know, because what we are doing in a practice, you know, our when we set our intention, our mind, and that's how the key is activated, you know. And when the key is activated, it will start manifesting itself in a different way, you know. And in order to do that, you have to connect with something much bigger than yourself. So that's why you have to open your kokoro and cultivate your unconditional love. Because when you open your kokoro and cultivate unconditional love, your energetic movement is out. So you can communicate with things. You can download things better. But when you are stuck with your ego and with your attachment, movement is this way. You know, so you may be grasping stuff, but you only can reach so much. You can't really reach the things, you know, because the energy movement is this way. So when you are practicing too, even though you're practicing for your own purpose and your path, you know, you also have to let go of the attachment to it. So when people are coming for healing, when people are attached to, like especially numbers, a tricky thing, because Western medicine measure everything with numbers, right? Like, so, you know, this is the something percentage of this, or level of this is like this, you know, so I want to bring this level into that level. You know, when they're focused on that number so much, it became much harder, you know. And I've seen so many people who come into a practice with the idea of healing, you know, and sometimes they're terminally ill, you know. But when they actually let go and just really feel the practice itself and the experience of practice, and go deep into that, the change happen much faster. So important things to not get attached to, the result, and don't get attached to your expectation, because things might manifest in different ways from what you expected. And always approach, things with unconditional love. Unconditional love, the way I define it is unconditional acceptance with loving regard. I'll talk a little bit more about it in detail later. But you always have to approach, because your life, this is your life. We sometimes expect people to love you, but then you're the only person really can love you, yourself. So you have to love yourself and love everything unconditionally. And that energy is very helpful. And, we talked about before the kokorozashi, the resolution. Knowing your path, later this month, we are doing the Journey Together meditation. So the path is already there, whether you like it or not. You're already on it, But then, depending on our life or depending on your ideas, you may be, trying to swim against the flow, which is very exhausting. And then when you get tired, it get get washed away anyway. But so, knowing your path is connecting with your path, so you move along with your path. And when you start doing that, your life will start to move, much smoother. And you carry much less stress because of that. And another thing is, only because you're learning something, that doesn't mean you shouldn't ask questions. Especially when you start gaining your own wisdom. Maybe the knowledge you acquired and the wisdom cultivated, there might be a conflict. It might not be the same thing. You might actually feel like, oh, I learned like this, but my feeling, my understanding is like that. Why is that? And that moment that comes, that's a very important moment for you to realize, this is my path. So whatever the knowledge is there to inspire, the wisdom. But this knowledge is not absolute. It's only there as a tool. There's no absolute tools. Tools just a tool. There's so many different versions of tools, so many different kind of a tool. But oftentimes, because knowledge is presented as like this is absolute knowledge, So that's why we get, confused sometimes, discouraged sometimes, disillusioned sometimes with a certain practice too. So always, value your intuition, your wisdom that you cultivated through the knowledge. And if the knowledge is different from what you understood, then there might be something there, that you don't need. And you just let go. Okay, this knowledge was there for a reason, but I don't need that anymore because I gained this wisdom. Because that's more important than the knowledge. That's my experience too. I have learned so many different things, but I also questioned, what does this means? Or is this teaching is from thousands of years ago. How can I apply that to our life now? Our understanding now. Because the way people understood life 2,500 years ago, it might be different from how we understand now. or if it become like 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, you know, how can I just be so literal about this ancient knowledge? And now we have a science too, and we have an understanding through our science about life is so much different now, So then, all these different tools that you have that will inspire you and cultivate the wisdom for you. And if that is different from a knowledge, and if people keep insisting that this knowledge is absolute, then just let go. Okay, it's for you, but not for me anymore. Because I have this, I have this wisdom, and this will guide me. But then always trust your intuition, your feeling. Our head can give you all sorts of different ideas. So when we are talking about the wisdom, it's like that. Wisdom is not a knowledge. It's a sensation and feeling and kind of a much deeper understanding of it. And sometimes you may be able to verbalize it. Sometimes it stays as a feeling. But this feeling will keep guiding you like a compass. So always trust your feeling and not your head so much. So more feeling, less thinking. And as you continue to practice like that, you can refine your practice. And really, slowly you start feeling like that when the vibration changes or some new sensation that happens. You may or may not know what exactly is, but something changed. And keep supporting yourself that way. And of course, you can do daily practice. That's great, because that gives you more opportunity for you to go deeper. So then we all come up with certain ideas. Like you can only go deeper, because that's how you're used to. You can only go deeper when you are taking a certain level, or if you only go deeper when you are working with this particular person, or you can only go deeper when you're going to this 5-day retreat, But don't limit yourself like that. The opportunity to grow is there every moment. We go into a meditative state so that we can actually quiet ourselves down, so we can notice more. Just what it is. Because in a daily life, there's so much noise all over. So when we go into a meditative state, then you can actually quiet down and feel this subtle vibration, or what I call subtle resonance. And that's how we can grow. All right, so let's do a little meditation, so we can continue to feel. So I want you to focus on the subtle sensation. All right, so close your eyes and relax. Put a gentle smile on your face and relax your whole body. Be aware of your lifeline and feel you are grounded and centered. Keep your palms up if you can. Open your fingers a little and push your elbows out a little bit. Feel so. You're creating space inside for your ki to flow freely and most efficiently. Tuck your chin slightly in, tip of your tongue gently touching the roof of your mouth, and you are breathing in and out through your nose with energy breathing. If your feet are touching the floor, gently grab the floor with your toes, or think about you're doing that. And think about raising your thighs and knees. And think about raising your hands and your arms. And you are in Gen. You're both physical and spiritual being. And your awareness is somewhere in between. And in this fuzzy and distant feeling, bring your focus to your lower tanden. See the soft, hazy light shining there. Say in your mind your heart-opening password. And feel your connection to everything there is, beyond time and space. And surrender yourself to this feeling. And with deep respect and gratitude, ask your guide to come and help you. And invite your guide to come march together with you. See your guide appears in front of you. And you and your guide are merging together as one. And feel you are your guide. As your guide, notice how you feel. Notice how you're holding your body. How you're holding your mind. And how you're holding your spirit. And your kokoro is open. And you set your E clearly. Say in your mind your intention, your purpose, and your path. And feel your E is resonating with everything there is, activating ki everywhere. And you are guided and supported in each step you take on your path. Now gently bring this light up to your heart. See the beautiful soft light shining in your heart. This is the light of your unconditional love. Light of your infinite healing energy. Focusing on this light, take 3 gentle deep breaths. And with each breath, feel this light is getting bigger and bigger. And your whole body is in the light. And in this soft, hazy light, feel your physical body is becoming fuzzy and transparent like mist. It's there but not there. And you let go of your attachment to your physical body. And you also let go of your attachment to your mind and to your spirit. And you are completely open. And any entanglement, whether they are physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, transform into something beautiful, shooting out from every aspect of you, going back to wherever it belongs. And feel you are getting lighter and lighter. You're purified and refined physically, mentally, and spiritually. And your kokoro is open. Feel your connection to your soul. Feel your connection to everything there is. You are part of everything, and everything is part of you. Everything is constantly resonating and transforming. And feel everything is sacred and precious. And you are blessing everything with your unconditional love. And notice as you're blessing everything, everything is blessing you. And you surrender yourself to this feeling of deep and subtle resonance. Now this meditation is yours. this meditation is slowly coming to the end, gently bring your focus back to your heart and see the beautiful soft light shining in your heart. And feel your kokoro is open and you're resonating with everything there is. Notice how good you feel physically, mentally, and spiritually. In this light, say thank you to your guide for all the guidance, unconditional love, and blessings. And with deep gratitude, ask your guide to come back and help you again anytime you need it. And see your guide coming out of you. And with smile, going back to wherever your guide came from. And gently bring this light down to your lower tanden. See the soft mist of light shining there. And the light is spinning, spinning, spinning as an energy ball. It's spinning faster and faster. Getting smaller and smaller. See the light is getting condensed into a tan. And you tuck it deep in your lower tanden. And with joy, take 3 gentle deep breaths. And slowly open your eyes and rub your hand together. Activate hands and fingers. And massage your face. Cup top of your head. Cup base of your head. And massage your C7. And massage your temples. And massage your ears. All right. How you feel? Good. So, going beyond is built in us. It's our natural impulse. Because I feel force of nature, the fundamental force of nature is creating new resonance, discovering something new. It's interesting, when I was in India, I went up to a village that's like 3,500 meter above ground. And I was just wondering, like, how people ended up in here. It's, it's even now, even 10 years ago or 15 years ago I was there, it was like barely have a road going up, And I just wondered, like, that's the human, tendency to what's beyond. I want to see what's beyond. What's on the corner, when you turn the corner, what's beyond there? When you pass the hill, what's beyond there? That's why even in a time of challenges, sometimes people are, forbidden, to pursue knowledge and understanding, From ancient time, people always trying to discover something new, trying to gain deeper understanding. So all we need to do is just follow that impulse, And sometimes people think, going beyond is scary. Some people fear what's around the corner, And that's okay, And that's why there are people like us who was like, I want to go. I want to see what's beyond. And then when you go and then go beyond, and you can come back and say, like, it's safe over there. Come. Right? And that's how we collectively grow. Now, everybody have to do that at the same time, but there are always people who want to go, who want to experience new, want to create, gain deeper understanding. And when they do, they always want to share. There are maybe few that who thinks like, oh, this is money, I'm going to keep it. But most people, sooner or later, like, oh, this is just for everyone. So then say, come. We all can go there. We can all see that. And that's how people, slowly, people start moving up, into a higher altitude. And that's what we do. That's how we evolve, as a species. You know, even think about our genes like that too. You know, those who survived Ice Age kept that gene and passed it on. And sooner or later it became, you know, from a lizards to mammal to apes and then to us. You know, our whole being is a result of this trying to go beyond, trying to create new way of being. And we are not the end, you know. As long as we don't kill off ourselves, before that happens, we can go beyond. And who knows, next generation might be having a completely different understanding of the world, you know. So it's not just for ourselves, but we go beyond so we can actually bring everyone together with us. So continue practicing, you know, don't give up. And really cherish small experiences, small steps. You know, don't just shoot for higher. You know that's higher there, but then, oh, in order to do that, I just have to accumulate step, create a step and step on it, create a step, step on it, you know, and then divide the step into smaller if you need to. And that's how we keep going. All right, so as always, I love you, I appreciate you, and I thank you. And until next time, goodbye for now.